For followers of the show, last week's episode ended with, "That's a story for another day."
Always does.
Which reminds me, there was a story for another day that was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went on your little trippy trip.
Yes.
And actually the fans have been clamoring for us to get back to that. So yep. I know maybe there's still some more trip crap about how pretentious the Venus sausages were and how the toilet's circling the other direction.
The only thing I haven't talked about was Austria, and Austria was great.
Austria's dumb.
Made some cool new friends there.
Austria's the Bratislava of
Had a lot
Europe.
of coffee.
Come on.
Bratislava's not the Bratislava of Europe, because Bratislava is great.
I know. I'm going to say Austria is the Bratislava of Europe.
Yeah, I'm willing to say that. Except for it's like fancy and not desolate.
Like maybe they have high-end hostels where rich white people go to pay to murder people?
Really awful hostel in Austria. It wasn't really awful. It just wasn't good. It was just kind of dirty. I was in a room with 3 German girls, though.
Yeah, I heard you got to like half base.
Yeah, I accidentally walked in on one of them changing, and I freaked out about it, and they totally didn't freak out about it, and they looked at me like I was the weird one. I didn't even know they were German. I didn't know their names until like 4 days later when I met them in Hungary, because I barely crossed paths with them except for that, like me opening the door and be like, "Oh shit, sorry, I'm so sorry. I just want to grab my bag."
What'd you even see, dog?
I saw nothing. Legitimately, I saw nothing.
Does it even count?
I just know she was changing. That's all I know.
Like she was becoming a better human being?
I saw like the back and side of her as she had like jeans on and like a bra top, and like she had a shirt on her arm. Obviously she was changing. It made me very uncomfortable. I felt bad. She thought I was a stupid American and shouldn't be so weird about that.
She thought or she knew?
Knew, probably.
Wow. I hadn't intended on tricking you into admitting to be some kind of a voyeur peeper.
Pervert. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was mostly referencing your trip to Orlando.
Yeah. Yes. Slightly more domestic and less sexy location.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, should walk in on anyone changing there? I mean, is that the transition we need here?
I don't think so. I did share a bedroom with this like 6'8" dude, Blaster McMassive, but I didn't walk in on him changing, but he did sleep in like just boxers.
Can you tell me, was that really his name?
That's what he wrestles as, or he used to wrestle as. His name's Thomas.
Blaster McMassive.
McMassive. Yeah, that's a great name.
What?
Blaster McMassive.
How is that a great name?
Obviously, it was a joke gimmick. I don't know, but I took it seriously. He's a big, scary dude.
It's like this guy I know with a gamer tag that's Studley McAwesome. I mean,
that's lame. But Blaster McMassive is dope.
Studley McAwesome is sweet.
Yeah, it's lame, but Blaster McMassive is good. I'm kind of pissed he changed his name.
To what?
I don't know, something normal.
Something normal? That's a terrible wrestling name.
It's worse.
It's like having the name Jake something. Stupid name. I'll say it right to his face.
If there's a story behind it, there's a reason.
I don't know what that is, and I wouldn't say it to his face. But all this is off topic.
Yeah. So
part 2 of the Orlando extravaganza, the tryout day, Jake. I don't
Yeah. So, a couple weeks ago or a month ago, whatever, I talked about my training experiences in Marion and me shooting my shots in the business. And the story for another day was my WWE tryout last year. I honestly think that's a lot more exciting of a story because it's the pinnacle of my career thus far.
Zenith?
In theory, yes. I mean, I've done cooler things, but if there's one quantifiable thing that I can say that says I'm successful in this business, it's the fact that I got a WWE tryout. Like, that's what you could tell people from high school who doubt that you ever did anything cool. Or if they're like, well, why don't you work for WWE? And I'd be like, well, I have. Like, I did a tryout.
And that you got it before Dylan.
No, I didn't. Dylan got it 3 months before me.
Ooh, does that hurt? I mean, it should. That you should be embarrassed.
No, I wish he got signed. That's all I really care to say about Dylan's tryout is I wish he'd gotten signed. Right. Probably could help me get signed too.
Dylan's tryout aside, I guess, what did you do other than show up late like a dick, like a disrespectful dick?
Yeah, I did do that. So back in the day, I took a shot. I went to this tryout only because I knew there was this WWE guy that was going to be there. And I impressed the WWE guy, but apparently I didn't impress the company that he did the tryout at because they're stooges and stuff. But he was like, you know what? Hey, man, do this. I'll help you try and get a tryout at some point. So I did that, went to Japan for a long time, and I got really good. And he thought I was really good. And he was like, you know what, man? I'm going to get you a tryout. And he did.
Did you divulge the name last time?
No, because I don't want to say his name.
Gotcha.
I think I should protect his anonymity.
His anonymity.
Yeah, his sea anemone.
Sea anemones.
Yep. So this awesome fellow got me a WWE tryout. So last June, I was just like hanging out at my place, and I'm like, well, I was supposed to get a tryout at some point this like quarter, and this quarter's coming to an end. Guess I'm not going to get a tryout, and I was super upset. And then I checked my email, and right there in my junk folder, sent 3 days before, was my WWE tryout invitation.
Did it have any cool gifts or anything? Did confetti go off when you opened it?
It didn't. It had some sweet graphics that were very official. And it was like a big banner, like "Welcome to your future," or like boom, WWE.
Your future was now.
My future was 3 weeks from then, technically. But it also was like, go ahead and respond if you're interested in the invitation.
You should have replied back and been like, hell no.
And they'd be like, nah, thanks. Take me off this spam list.
Unsubscribe. I can't find the unsubscribe.
Yeah, unsubscribe. Like, stop harassing me.
Look, I told you no 6 months ago, like when I told the Broken Skull Challenge exactly where they could stick their invite.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, no, thank you. So I went ahead and clicked sure. And they sent me the information. And 3 weeks later, I did a WWE tryout. They don't give you much time to prepare. So like if you're a fat stooge, you don't have very much time to not be a fat stooge anymore.
You could just starve yourself for 3 weeks and drink a bunch of water until 2 days before.
I
show up shredded.
I kind of tried to do a little bit of that. I took some fat burners, and I was killing the gym, and my diet was on point. But dude, I was kind of fluffy. Like I was retaining water. It was not my tip-top physique, man. If I got my tryout right when I got back from Japan, when I looked great, that would have been ideal. That's when I was told I was going to get a tryout. Right when I got home from Japan, I was like, hey, excuse me, Mr. Blake. I was like, I just did this and this. Is there any chance I might be able to get an opportunity this year? And he's like, I'll get you a tryout for sure. 6 months later.
Look, I haven't seen a carb in over a year. I'm ready.
So no BS. I hadn't seen a carb in like 3 months, and I was ripped, and I was training for hours every day. And I just come off the best storyline of my career, pretty much main eventing Korakuen Hall, which is a big deal. It's like Japanese Madison Square Garden. And my name in lights, and people thinking I was going to become a tag team champion next to my boy Hino. But I didn't. But anyway, I looked great. I hadn't seen a carb in months. 6 months later, however, when I'd reintroduced carbs and being a lazy American to my diet, I was fluffy.
Don't blame your culture for you sucking. Come on.
It's kind of the culture's fault. In Japan, they wouldn't give me the option.
I wouldn't have the ability to be fat and lazy.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would have had the option to eat white rice, and that wouldn't have made me fat.
Can't we just call it rice?
White rice is the only rice I want a part of.
Grand.
I'm very anti-brown rice.
So you're fat and on your way to Florida.
Yes. So I'm supposed to fly out from the airport at like 3 p.m. Gets me into Orlando at like 6:30 because I had to have a layover because there's no direct flights or whatever. So I get to the airport in time to see a 3-hour flight delay.
3 hours? For what?
I get, did you know that the only time usually you have delays are when the flight before you was late due to inclement weather somewhere across the country?
No, it's always like Denver.
Yeah, it's always like it doesn't have anything to do with your inclement weather normally. Like 90% of the time, it's not the fact that Indianapolis had bad weather. It's that on this day, New Orleans had bad weather. So the flight from New Orleans actually screwed up my flight.
The pilot was too busy throwing beads and wrecked the plane?
Yeah, dude, he just lost it all over whatever 4th Street Live or whatever. I heard the main roads down there smell like piss and vomit.
I believe it.
Yeah, I was told it's awful city.
You've never been?
I'd never been to New Orleans.
Well, Dr. Jacob Omen's from there.
He is probably a suburb, somewhere like a bayou. Mm-hmm.
I get it.
Yeah. So, of course, if there's one time a flight is going to be delayed in my life, it's going to be the biggest opportunity of my career. So, my flight's delayed. I'm trying to figure out all this stuff. So, we got a list of all the people that were going down there so we could trade phone numbers because I'm supposed to share a rental car with 3 other humans and then a hotel room with 1 other human. So I'm actually getting phone calls from the people I'm supposed to share a car with. And dude, these people do not know how to help themselves. Let's just say that.
How so?
There's a girl coming to the tryout.
Not
in my opinion. But there was a girl from Puerto Rico coming to the tryout. And she called me and was like, oh, I have a flight delay. I don't know what I'm going to do about the rental car. I'm like, well, I also have a flight delay, so I don't know what to tell you. She's like, oh, well, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, maybe you should just call or email the one person who gave us his email and phone number and told us to coordinate if there's any problems. She's like, okay, I'll try. And then I think she called him. He didn't answer, so she called him back. I was like, he didn't answer. What do I do? Oh my God. I'm like, I don't know. Figure it out. Like Uber. Like it kept saying in the emails, if something happens, Uber to the performance center and they'll hit you back for it. But this girl didn't know how to do that.
So they paid for you to fly out and to try out?
Yeah, you get paid. Like they fly you down there, they put you up in a hotel, they pay for your rental car. They just want you to share a rental car and then share a hotel room.
Yeah, so what's her beef? Especially if I guess I didn't realize that they paid for it.
Yeah.
I thought they made you do it. So yeah, what are you worried about? If they're going to reimburse you, figure it out.
Yeah, and one of the things that he even said in our tryout packet was, hey, sometimes some things might happen. It's on you to figure it out. Consider this part of your tryout. You know, because if you got signed to WWE, you're flying multiple flights every week. Dude, you're going to hit a delay. You're going to have to get a rental car. You're going to be late at some point. You might have to get rerouted. It's kind of like you're going to have to roll with the punches a lot in this career, right? There's no way this is going to be like anything life altering. And almost everyone's flight got delayed. Straight up. Like, I think 30 out of the 46 people's flights got delayed.
Louisiana was just real bad that day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there was also, northeast headwind in North Carolina that screwed some people too.
Every time. Classic.
Yep. So, I don't know why she was freaking out. I was like, just go hitch. I don't know. Get your own rental car. Who cares? Like, just
surely someone will stop for you. It's fine.
Yeah, they're going to cover it. It's no big deal. And worst case scenario, you rent a car for $20 for a day, right? Whoops. Like, it's only the biggest tryout of your career, your life, whatever. So I had a delay and I got delayed a little more. And then I flew and I was going to have to catch another flight. So I think my second flight got changed and I had to take a different flight to Orlando because I missed my connection. So boom, I end up in Orlando. It's 9:30 at night and I was supposed to be there at 6.
Missed it by that much.
Only, yeah. The thing we were supposed to do that Wednesday night when we got into town was go straight to the PC and then we're supposed to have our physicals done. So I'm like, I call, and I'd already called up the guy in charge when I had called for my connection. I was just like, oh, no, I emailed him. I was like, hey man, my flight's going to be delayed. I was like, I'll figure it out when I get there. But, just so you know, I was like, how late are you guys going to be there for the evaluations? He's like, oh, we'll be there pretty late. So just give me a call when you get there. I go ahead. I get there. They'd forced me to check one of my bags on the flight. So I call him when I land.
Your protein?
Yeah, exactly. So I call the dude when I land and he's like, yeah, man, we're going to be here for another 30 or 40 minutes. So just go ahead, meet up with the one other guy at the airport, get the rental car, and then come on over. And it's like a 20-minute drive, something like that. I go to get my bag. And of course, it takes me 35 minutes for my bag to come out the conveyor belt on the baggage claim. It took a ridiculously long time. I almost thought my bag was lost, so I was going to have to file some stuff, which that wouldn't have been great. I would have had to drive to Walmart that night and buy everything.
That'd look professional.
Yeah, it would have been awful if I had to buy terrible dress clothes and 4 pairs of shorts or whatever, but not ideal.
Sure.
Fair enough to say. And then I meet up with the guy I'm supposed to share a car with. Enter Spencer Myers. Ever heard the name before?
Nope. I've heard of Michael Myers.
You sure you haven't heard of Spencer Myers?
I'm sure.
Are you really sure?
I'm relatively confident.
Yeah, because he never did shit. Yeah, because he's never done anything and he didn't earn the tryout. He's just a fat football player who happens to be 6'4".
Wait a minute. Isn't that most of the tryout? If you can play football, apparently you can wrestle?
Yes. So, to clarify, there were about 46 people in this tryout. I think the number was 16 of them were professional wrestlers or had any training at all. Then there were 15 or 16 football players, most of them college, one NFL. There was the NCAA collegiate wrestling champion and his little brother, because he got his little brother tryout too. There were a handful of bodybuilders. There were a handful of models, 1 or 2 just Instagram only. That doesn't count. Yep. There was an Australian rugby player. Yeah, I think that about sums it up. So let's just say mostly football players.
Is he Foster's McBeer?
He looked like his name should be Foster. He looked like a tough guy. Like, he was in good shape. He looked like a hard ass. You know, I don't doubt that he could hit some people, but he'd never been in a ring before.
Couple of rolls and he bails?
Yep, not him, but I'll get to that. So I meet up with Spencer Myers. Spencer is like 6'3", 6'4". He's a peculiar looking gentleman, not necessarily attractive. He's a bit overweight, and he was a defensive lineman for, I think, the University of Massachusetts. I could be wrong. Doesn't really matter.
If it's an SEC school, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means, but it sounds good. So whatever. So I meet up with Spencer Myers, and Spencer, the first thing he says to me, which gives me a really good like vibe on him, is, "Yeah, man, you're taking so long. I thought about just leaving you. I almost just drove off."
Thanks, man.
I'm like, cool, man. And his flights got delayed, and he got there about 20 minutes before I did. So he'd been waiting at the rental car like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, cool, man. But luckily he got the rental car. It was in his name. And I go ahead and hop in, and he turns the key on. And as we're backing out of the spot, he even tells me, like, "Yeah, man, this is my second WWE tryout. Actually, I had one a few years ago, and they offered me a contract. But like, I don't like wrestling, and like, I didn't want the job because I just want to be an NFL player."
Nice.
And I'm like, "Oh, cool, man." He's like, "Yeah, you know, it's crazy to me. Like, I didn't even know, but like, I guess some people actually work like a long time to get this tryout." And I just deadpan turned to him like face of stone. I was like, "Yeah, some people like 14 years.
Nice.
Totally went over his 6'4" head though. Like, he didn't understand what I was saying. He's like, "Oh,
I mean, I didn't work 20 years to get where I'm at."
yeah." So, and then he talks about football and this and that. So, but we're driving. I'm like, you know, I was like, "All right, man, I just got off the phone with this guy that had a talent a couple like minutes ago. He said they're still going to be there, but we got to hurry." He's like, "Well, no, man, I'm hungry. We got to get food first." I'm like, "You know, man, actually, I think we should just get there because they were hoping to be gone by now. They're already waiting like an extra hour at least on us." He's like, "No, man, I gotta eat. Like, I need food. I'm gonna stop by McDonald's. Like, there's a McDonald's on the way. There's gotta be." And I'm like, "You know what, man? I have some protein bars in my bag. How about I just give you one of those protein bars? That'll get you by. We'll do our evaluations, and then we'll go to McDonald's afterward, man." He's like, "No, man, screw that. Like, they can't stop me from eating. Like, they can't expect me not to eat." Like, dude. So in my head, I am upset. Like, this is only the biggest opportunity in my life, my career. I'm already, 5 hours late? I just want to get there. I just want to check in. I just want this thing to work, Pete. Like, I've worked hard for this. I've worked long for this. Please just get to the goddamn performance center. So of course we end up at McDonald's.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Why not?
So Spencer orders about $15 worth of McDonald's. And he talks about that's like half of what he used to order back when he was actually playing.
Oh, good. He's cutting weight.
Yep. And oh, dude, and this was not salad with chicken breast he was ordering here. This was like several Big Macs and 2 fries and a milkshake. He got a friggin' milkshake.
Oh, yeah. Dairy's important, dog.
Yeah. And he probably weighs 260, 270. Not bodybuilder physique. I'm like, oh, man. So also, we are in the McDonald's line for about 10 minutes. This took forever. And the whole time I'm just like, this can't be happening. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Eventually, we get to the performance center. As we are pulling up to park in the performance center, my phone rings and it's the head of talent. He's like, "Hey, man, just checking where you guys are because we're going to leave." And I'm like, "No, man, we're pulling up. We're parking. Swear to God, we're about to knock on your door right now." So we knock on the door. They open it. The dude's really cool. He understood, but he was like, "Yeah, if I'd known you guys were going to be this late, I just would have told you to come early in the morning." And I'm like, "Oh, shoot, man. Well, whatever." So I fill out some paperwork, and then we go ahead and go into the other room. The athletic trainer like takes a look at us. Then we have to do all these physical tests and whatever, and they just want to make sure you're in really good shape. 1 or 2 people were medically disqualified, and they wouldn't let them do it. So like they flew some people down there, and then they went through the medical and didn't clear, and they got the option to just go home or to hang out. And like, yeah, one of the girls, like, she just hung out for like the next 3 days.
Oh, I think you'd have to hang out, wouldn't you? It's like, I need to know what's going on, because unless I'm disqualified because of something I can't fix, I want to know what's going on. And also,
Yeah.
I feel like it'd have to come as a surprise. Aren't you showing up in the best shape you can be? And it's like, oh, yeah, well, I don't know. My wrist is broken, so I can't perform. I don't know what it would be to where you wouldn't be good to go.
Yeah, I know. Well, this girl, like one of them, she had an ocular implant, I guess, in her eye. She'd been cleared to do sports forever, but for some reason it was an issue. So that was one of those things, like, she declared it, but man, she just shouldn't have, I guess. But one of my buddies for years, Dylan, actually was like blacklisted because he had a heart murmur. But then eventually he got them some paperwork because his doctor said he's fine. Like, there's no threat. And then he was still disqualified for a few years, but then they called him up one day and they were like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal. You're good now.
It's not a big deal. It's okay. You've lived the extra couple years. So yeah, that's fine.
So that's how it works, man. So we did that. They told me I passed. They just told me like, oh, hey man, you have a destroyed PCL in your left knee, but that's not like super big deal. And I was like, okay, cool, man. You told me that 6 months ago when I was at extra work. He's like, oh, did I really? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, what'd I say? I was like, oh, you just said go to the doctor, and the doctor said it was fine, and I'm hypermobile and have a PCL. Like, he's like, yeah, you're good. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So the guy was sweet. He was a good guy. So then we go back to the hotel, whatever, crash for the night, up the next morning. So the tryout's 3 days. Let's call it 3 days in hell, Pete. Oh man, remember that when we have to title this episode.
3 days in hell?
3 days in hell.
So you went to Japan?
No, not even, man. This was not as hard as Japan, but it was hard. Probably only because of the nerves. So next morning, boom, we go there. We show up in our dress clothes. They immediately have us change into whatever else. First thing we have to do is cut a 1 minute promo. So they throw us up in front of all of our like other 40 some people. And then there's like 10 WWE coaches. And by the way, every coach there has like a very impressive resume. They're like world traveled, been on TV, incredible performers, best of the best. And then there's a bunch of other like NXT staff and crew there watching. So like so many powerful people are there. Like there's two different heads of talent relations pretty much, and they're both there. And you have to get up and cut a 1 minute promo. And they told you to do it in character. So 2 or 3 people had good ones. 1 or 2 dudes had awesome ones. I feel like mine was an awesome one. A buddy of mine later, who wasn't there, who works for WWE, texted me. It's like, hey man, heard you killed it on that promo today. Good job. And I'm like, okay, cool, dude. Well, I didn't even text you, so I'm glad that you heard that through the wire. And then like everyone else who wasn't a wrestler went up there and like bombed pretty bad. 1 or 2 were surprisingly okay, and some people had some charisma, so that was good on them. And then it started our training sessions. First one. On that Thursday, we had like a 3-hour in-ring session. Then we took a little break, and then we had like another 3 or 4 hour in-ring session, and then we were done. I should say, in this, we did have a guy at the tryout who was 6'9" tall, 404 pounds, and this dude had no body fat on him at all.
Ronnie Coleman Jr.?
He was the most jacked, large human being I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm pretty sure he got recruited from the Arnold Classic because Mark Henry recruited some people from the Arnold Classic to come to this tryout.
Don't you have to call him Mr. Chocolate?
Mr. Chocolate. He has 2 chocolate sides. They're both sexual. So, and this dude, and during his promo, it was interesting though, like, because he said what his job was. And it wasn't pro bodybuilder. It was pro golfer.
What?
Yeah. So this dude's normally in a polo and khakis, driving the ball 7,000 yards because he can easily bench 600 pounds.
That's ridiculous.
The 300 kilos, my bad. But I should say this. So the Performance Center, the setup is amazing. There's an incredible weight room. There are a bunch of like rooms for backstage stuff. And then there's this giant open area with an entrance ramp, and there's 7 rings. One of them is a pillow, pretty much. Like you can just try high flying stuff. And then there's 6 legitimate rings. And there are 2 or 3 coaches around every ring. And then you have to do stuff in one ring, jump into the second ring, do it again, jump into the third ring, do it again. Sometimes I had to jump into all 6, but normally it was 3 rings. You have to yell your name, and they give you a wristband with a number. So it's like, hey, I'm Jake Bleep 41. I have to yell that every time. This dude, the 6'9" bodybuilder dude, he did 2 rings, I think, worth of 2 front rolls, walked out the door. Just left. Said it wasn't for him.
When he felt naked without his putter?
Yeah, I mean, he had a tee on instead of a polo, and he didn't feel comfortable in a t-shirt apparently and left.
What a tool.
So this dude got flown down there, probably cost the WB, $1,000 at least to go through all the trouble of putting him up, scouting him, vetting him, flying him, everything. And then he just left, man, walked out. Then 2 or 3 other people miraculously got hurt during the course of either this day or the beginning of the next day. And then they just like sat on the sidelines with ice on their shoulder and just, that's it. All done.
They're not going to get a call back. Man, something's got to be torn off.
Yeah. So like for the wrestlers, I'm sure all of us were thinking, yeah, if we blow our knee, rip our shoulder, if we have herniated disc, whatever, like get a stinger, we're going to keep going because we want to be here. There's only one more dude there who had more experience than I do. He'd been wrestling another couple of years, been around the world. And then there are a few other people nearing my experience. Oh no, there's a tag team from Canada that had a little more experience than me too. And then everyone else has been doing this a while. It's all we want in life. I should also say, I've never went so balls to the wall in my life. Mr. Chocolate actually complimented me.
The Mr. Chocolate?
The Mr. Chocolate at the end of day 1 because we had to do this drill in the corner where we were doing high knees for minutes straight, and then they blow a whistle and you have to drop into a burpee and then pop right back up into high knees. So I'm the only one out of all of these people every day training in wrestling boots, which are heavy as hell, Pete. So heavy. And I have these big, thick knee pads on to protect my knees because they're sore, not because hitting the mat hurts me or anything. But like I have rocky knees. So Mr. Chocolate actually compliments me on my high knees because I'm going balls to the wall. And he's like, yeah, man, you're not giving up. Like, props to you, man. I'm like, oh, thanks, dude. I hope you have influential hiring power over some people.
I hope you talk to Trace H's and let him know, Mr. Chocolate.
Yeah. Oh, and they also told us like, oh yeah, you see all these cameras in the room? Well, these go to a feed directly into Triple H and into Vince's office. So like they're going to be watching you at certain points. I'm
nice.
Like, all right, cool. Perfect. I think Triple H would have liked me. Besides the fact that I'm not 6'4", 230, which a lot of the dudes were.
Well, I think he's envious of people with hair anymore. You should have shaved your head.
That's true. I should have just gotten a big Triple H tattoo on my back. Day 1 comes, day 1 goes. It's pretty rough, but only because their nerves are so high. Day 2 comes. That day, just the long story short version of what we do, we go there. We have a 3-hour in-ring training session. We take a quick break. Then we have a 2-hour weight room session with a dude named Sean Hayes, who used to be like an NFL conditioning coach and stuff. He puts us through this brutal 2-hour workout. This was the only time in the entire tryout that I did not shine because I'm in there with dudes who've been doing football drills and pushing sleds for their whole life.
So you got worked by Sean Hayes?
I got worked. Yeah, man, it was good. Also, a lot of these dudes are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and some are even bigger. Well, we do a drill where we're using medicine balls, but they had medicine balls ranging from like 10, 15, 20, 30 pounds. So, of course, all of the huge dudes grab like the 10-pound ones. So by the time I get to one, I have the 30.
Nice.
So I'm doing all these ab drills and stuff with a 30-pound slam ball, and they have 10-pound ones, and they have an extra 100 pounds on me. That was cool. I don't think anyone noticed all the extra work I had to do. But that's cool, whatever. So we get through that. Take another break. We have lunch, and they feed us. They give us like some smoothies and like these pitas. They're real good. And then we had another 3-hour in-ring session. At the end of that in-ring session, we had legitimately the most brutal drill I've ever done in my entire life. And this was a thing that I knew was coming, so I practiced it a little bit. Long story short is they put a punching bag in the middle of the ring. You have to hit the ropes, do a drop down, do a burpee on one side, pop up, jump to the other side, turn 180, do another burpee, hit the ropes, and then come and do it the other way back. So every rep is hitting the ropes twice and then doing 4 burpees. So you do a minute in one ring, you do a minute in the second ring, you do a minute in the third ring. And they pretty much were like, yeah, this is the only drill that matters. We're keeping count. This is a competition. Win it.
Ooh.
Yeah. If there's 46 of us, and a lot of these dudes are just killer athletes, right? So if there's one drill I'm going to die doing, it's this drill. So 46 of us come, 46 of us go. Some people don't finish. And actually by this point, there's probably 38 of us doing the drills or whatever. Some people don't finish because it's that brutal. And some people are getting like 2 reps, 3 reps, maybe 4 reps. It comes down to 3 dudes. 3 dudes tie with 7 reps. Me, this dude named Ricardo, and this other dude named Mike. Mike is a power lifter, and Mike is on his third tryout.
Ooh.
He's done this 3 times. So he knows this drill well. He's been trained his ass off doing this drill. Mike had gotten into wrestling like 6 months before. So he had a little bit of experience. Ricardo is a football player, University of Michigan, and then he played for a couple European American Football League teams, Saarland and Uppsala. And then, because I looked them up, we all tied with 7. And I was about an inch from getting 7.5. And they would have counted that too if I'd hit within that half a second. So I'm like kind of frustrated I didn't win that. I didn't push out, but I was going as fast as I humanly could anyway. I almost died. It was cool.
Because of your murmur.
I wish I had, man. I wish I'd had a heart attack doing it, because then they could have like revived me and then been like, hey man, that's the dude that had a heart attack. Think that would have helped me get signed?
I don't know. But then wouldn't you have to wrestle under the nickname like Heart Attack?
Dead man.
We were just talking about name confusion last episode.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just, dude, I wanted a job. I just really wanted a job. So I do that. Yeah, I tied for first on that, which that was cool, but like no one gave me props. By the way, I should elaborate in the fact that there are a lot of people around and they're really only giving props to the football players and the models. They're not really
the cute ones.
They're not really giving props to the wrestlers, especially the 2 dudes in charge. They're really just blowing off the wrestlers and complimenting these people who couldn't get into the NFL.
Well, yeah, you got to teach the football players how to wrestle, man. They need that encouragement. You people should know better.
Yep. So we did learn how to take the basic back bump. We learned how to hit the ropes, and then they had us do these drills for like an insane amount of time. Like we had to run the ropes for like 6 minutes, and they'd blow a whistle, and you'd have to like fall on your back 4 times, and then jump up, hit the ropes, and then get in the other ring and do the same thing for like 6 minutes, which doesn't sound like much.
Well, how much of this is actually technical then? It just sounds like cardio and, we're going to teach you these 2 or 3 things.
Yeah, none of it's technical. None of it. It's all just about blowing you up. It's all about murdering you to see if you'll keep going. Yep, so there's that. I should also talk more about my friend Spencer. During this whole thing, they're pretty much preaching like, hey man, respect above everything, right? Well, Spencer didn't get that memo. So at one point, he backtalks one of the coaches, who is like a world-traveled veteran all-star of the mat.
What degree of backtalk?
It was, pretty much anything qualifies as backtalk. So it was like, hey man, do something this way. And he was like, no man, well that's the way I was doing it. And the guy was like, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. You know what? Not a good call. Yeah. And then one of the female NXT talents said something to him. I don't remember what it was at all. And because I wasn't around. And I guess he said something probably similar to her. And she was like, are you getting an attitude? And he was like, no, I'm not getting an attitude. I don't think you can talk to me that way.
Oh.
Totally what you want to hear, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So he was maybe a marked man. Also, at a different point, he had a conversation with somebody. I should say not somebody. One of the heads of talent recruitment, where he said something kind of shit. And the guy was like, hey man, who is the current NXT champion? But of course, Spencer just learned what NXT was, which is the WWE's developmental brand that trains at the PC. And he said he didn't know. And he got huffy that the dude got crappy with him for not knowing who the NXT champion is.
Well, that's like asking somebody what's Sexual Chocolate's wife's name. Nobody knows that.
Yeah, exactly. So this, and I didn't even bother explaining this to Spencer later, but you're showing up for a job interview with a $1 billion company and you did no research. You obviously don't care. Spencer then goes to polling every single other human being at the PC, like, hey, do you know who the NXT champion is? So, of course, he brings his findings to me because we're in a car together. And at the end of the day, he's like, yeah, man, I mean, barely anyone knew the NXT champion was anyway. He's like, do you even know? I was like, yeah, it's Aleister Black. He's like, oh, yeah, well, only certain people know. And I was like, was it the wrestlers? And he's like, yeah, man, only the wrestlers knew. And there's like only a few of you people there. Yes, that's the problem, dog. I should mention in my promo, I said something fancy like, I've had like 3,000 matches. I've been to 9 countries at the time. I've done this, I've done that, and yada, yada. So I was pretty much like, yeah, I've been doing this forever. I'm really good. So I lived in the dojo in Japan and whatnot. So during this time, a good handful of people will come up to me and ask me for wrestling questions or advice as we're going through training. So being a cool guy, I'm trying to help some of them out. But that led to 2 football players asking me the best question ever. And that was, hey man, how do you know who wins?
Like who wins the tryout?
No, like a match. Hey man, how do you know who wins?
What do they think happens? 2 guys just come out and like hit each other for a while, do whatever, and then a judge comes out?
You know, so I feel like they had an idea that, you know, wrestling ends in a pinfall. They know how the matches go. And they were both asking this from an innocent place, like an innocent, naive place. They were both really cool guys. I liked them a lot. But they just honestly had no clue how anything wrestling works. So I was like, well, okay, man. And then I went into like a 10-minute tangent of like, this is how things work. And they were just like, oh, man, thank you so much. Spoiler alert, one of those guys got signed.
Well, of course you did.
Yeah. One of those guys got signed. The same guy that actually, while we were doing drills, he somehow found a wiffle ball bat and a wiffle ball and started playing wiffle ball as we were doing the tryout.
Why?
This sounds not believable, right? Like, that doesn't sound like a thing that's humanly possible.
They liked his initiative. Oh, this is a guy who found the wiffle ball and bat that we hit.
Yeah, it was like under the ring, I guess. I don't know. Maybe people in the PC screw around a little bit. That's fine. In between the massive shifts of getting their ass kicked. But he found the wiffle ball bat, and they told us, like, yeah, we want you guys to have fun. Let loose, be yourselves. Well, they didn't mean grab a wiffle ball bat and a wiffle ball and start batting it around as people are doing drills in the ring, right?
Right.
So, of course, the head trainer blows the whistle and demands that we all spread around the ring and do squats as punishment. So we did a lot of squats, and a lot of people couldn't even finish the squats. It was only like 100 or 200. It was nothing. It was easy. Like, it was what I do, but, you know, before I officially brush my teeth every morning.
Before you unofficially brush them, and then you officially brush them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever. So it was like, I've done this in my sleep in Japan. You know what I mean? Like, I've accidentally sleptwalked and done 300 squats. It's just not bad. But this dude got us punished. He asked me who wins a match. He's screwing around the whole time, and he got a contract. He reported down there. He was there for 2 months. He took one too many little falls and said he didn't want to do it and left. Quit.
He walked away. I got to imagine, I don't know, it's probably life-changing money, but it's not, after 6 months of this, I can retire money, right?
Compared to, I've been playing American football in Europe, money, it's significant. They give you money. The dude lived in Orlando, but like, they give you money to relocate, and you go to train there every day, and they take really good care of you. And it's probably in the 50s, like something like that, you know, for a starter basic beginner contract. And just walked away. I only missed it because at the same time, another non-wrestler who they signed, who was down there for like 6 or 8 months, had quit that same day too. And that was the headline, because this dude started having matches, and he was a gymnast who was kind of known. Sometimes they just hire a lot of non-wrestlers and they quit eventually because they don't want to get hit on the head.
What job did you think you were applying for? And it's obviously just didn't know.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is most of these people had no idea. And you could tell a lot of them hated it. Like, they hated the drills and they hated doing the physical stuff. Not that they couldn't do it. It just doesn't feel good. I would love to see them on the first day where you throw strikes, where you get hit in the head, where you get punched, where you get kicked. I would love to have seen that. Yes, so it goes. After all that stuff on day 2, I got to hear a big rant at Denny's from Spencer about all his stuff. And he wanted to like cut a promo. They told us we were going to have promos the next day, or we were going to have a match. So, because they ripped into everyone at the first day for their promos being awful. And they're like, no, we asked you to do this, so we're going to have you do it again on Saturday. Come up with another promo. But they didn't end up having all of us do promos because some of us had matches. On day 3, we had a show. But that night, Spencer's venting to me, and he's talking about what he's going to make his promo. And he pretty much would have been cutting a promo that Seth Rollins would cut on Raw, like verbatim. He was even going to refer to himself as Seth freaking Myers, which Seth Rollins calls himself Seth frickin' Rollins. And that was like a big thing on TV at the time. And this dude just had no idea. So like, he was going to bury himself with a promo. And I was just like, cool, man, like, go for it. You know, like, please say this stuff. And he was even going to say like, he's not a wrestler and he doesn't know this and that, but he can learn because he's a hardworking dude. And, you know, he played football for this long and he's an athlete and he's Seth freaking Myers. And I'm like, dude, yeah, you should say that. You should say exactly that, man.
I'm unprepared, but I am willing to learn.
This dude was the most blissfully ignorant fellow ever. Every time we talked, he said like 3 horribly offensive things to me and didn't realize he was being horribly offensive. He thought he was just having a conversation, saying normal things. And I was like, yeah, well, you're completely negating all the work I've ever done in my entire life with these like really stupid comments you're making.
Yeah, the work you've done is not really that important. I mean, obviously, football players get signed, not wrestlers.
Yeah, exactly. Then that's true. Like more football players got signed than wrestlers. By the way, at the hotel every night we have to do laundry because we had to change clothes like every 30 minutes. We would work out so we're all sweaty and nasty. Then they would yell at us that you have 60 seconds to run into the other room, change your shirt, take a drink of water, and come back. We're going through like 6 shirts a day, sometimes 3 pairs of shorts, and we just have to keep running back. And they're like being real drill sergeant on us, you know, which is fine. I'm used to it. Like, they can't do anything worse to me than like what people did in Japan. Like in Japan, they like might like break your arm if you're like 3 seconds late from getting water. And here they would just like yell at you and make you do like 5 squats, you know? So I'm not worried about it, but everyone else seemed like it was the worst thing in the world. Day 3, last day, we had a show. So they set it up just like an NXT show in the Performance Center. A lot of the NXT roster talent came to watch it. And then all of the coaches, everyone that does the hiring, everyone's watching you. We have 5 minutes, 8 minutes on these matches. I wrestled this 6'3" bodybuilder, former army dude who had wrestled for like 2 or 3 months. So it wasn't very good. And I kind of just beat his the whole time. Not intentionally. It's just he didn't know what he was doing. So I had to like make it look good. And then later when I asked for advice, they said like, well, the dude's like huge and you just kind of beat his ass the whole time. I'm like, yeah, shouldn't that be a good thing? Like, isn't that a compliment? Like I convincingly beat him up and he's like 355 pounds. So there was that. And then they set up the tryout matches to really like highlight 3 or 4 people and then just kind of like neglect the rest. And me being one of the ones they neglected. I should also mention the guy who got me my tryout was not there.
Nice.
So he was like on sabbatical, which didn't help my case.
I'm going to get you a tryout, but I'm not going to be there. Good luck.
Yeah, and it's not like he wanted it that way. I'm sure he didn't. Like, it was, I think, medical leave. So he had to be gone, but that just didn't help me. What else from the tryout? What else did I bring up earlier, Pete? What have I vented to you about?
Let's see, no real wrestlers got signed. Not knowing how a match ends. The McDonald's, of course, which is solid.
Yep. Yeah, that's the type of food you want.
Viva Puerto Rico. I mean, those were most of the highlights.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of whatever else. It was kind of cool. There were some other people I had never met or seen there before. There was a girl who I was in Japan with for a while. She was at the tryout. That was cool. The girlfriend of one of my buddies that I hadn't seen for ages was there, and I never met her before. She was real cool. I had friends with a couple other of the wrestlers, and a handful of them got signed because they, have friends in the right places and stuff. As far as the tryout goes, too, I feel like if there was a winner, like I won. Like overall, all things considered, I won. Because like my conditioning was on point. I've done this a million times before. I maybe wasn't the fastest or the strongest or whatever on all this stuff, but if there's one winner, I feel like I won. I was even told that later by people there. 3 or 4 of the wrestlers told me that too. One of the trainers told me that. But of course, I didn't end up getting a contract or anything from it. And that's cool. Like, I don't have my sour grapes or anything. It was just a super interesting experience. So that was me shooting my big shot there. Later that day, airport and flew home. And I still talk to him sometimes down there, but who knows when it's going to pay off. They even said, what they want changes every day. So they could want you tomorrow or they could want you never.
You say that when you break up with women? Well,
yeah,
it changes every day. So.
Listen, I just, we might get together at some point, but that might be tomorrow and it also might be never.
I need you to wait for me, though.
Yeah, like if you want to make sure not to take another job because I might come calling, that's cool.
That's reasonable. It's fair. Look, if they want it, they'll wait.
Let's be honest. As far as men go, I'm like the WWE, and there's no alternative.
Well, yeah, there's lots of alternatives. There's AEW, there's TNA, Wrestle One.
Come on.
I mean...
Yeah, it's like, you could go wrestle in England for a little while and maybe enjoy it like on some level, but if WWE comes calling, you're breaking up with the UK and coming home right away. Back to daddy.
It's important to remember, WWE is yo daddy.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that sums up part 2 of Story for Another Day, me shooting my shot. We could even divide this into 2 episodes, man. This was a long one. There's probably stuff I forgot, too.
No, if they were committed, they'd listen through the whole thing.
I think our listeners and fan base will. We have a great fan base.
Except for that guy who already tuned out. He's a frickin' mark, and he knows it. He might not hear it, but he's a frickin' mark.
Yeah, he couldn't have made it through even the 100 torture punishment squats.
He probably didn't even figure out how you win a match.
No, he doesn't know. It'd be great if some of these people listened. I should send this link directly to the one dude who got signed and quit. We still talk sometimes. He doesn't understand how somebody who wrestled before could be upset with him.
Really?
Yep.
We're just being selfish from what you've described.
Well, what he told me was he realized that he wasn't passionate about this, and that was like not cool to the business if he wasn't passionate about it. So he should leave, hoping that someone else that's passionate about it could get that spot. Which I can understand that argument.
His assumption is that he has a spot.
Well, he had a...
Well, yeah, that one.
Yeah, he had the WWE spot.
He said he came to terms then, but he's trying out now. Like, again, a second time.
No, he's not trying out again.
Oh, okay.
No, this guy, like, he got signed, went down there for 2 months, quit. And then when I was like, hey, man, what happened? He was just like, oh, I'm not passionate about it.
I get you. So it's not Spency.
No, it's not Spencer, who had a second shot and apparently got offered a contract, but he didn't get offered a contract the second time. Wonder what he's up to.
I don't know. Maybe he works at Mike's Car Wash.
We're probably friends on Facebook. I'll look later.
If he works at Mike's Car Wash, I totally want credit for pulling that out of my ass and for it apparently being right.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great.
Shout out to Mike's Car Wash.
Yeah, make sure to follow us at WWE and at WWE NXT and at WWE PC. Keep up on all the latest there, and we are Off the Cliff Pod, and we'll catch you next week.